Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Experience Insiders. You know me by now. I'm Alicia Esposito, VP of Content for Retail TouchPoints, and I'm super excited to have on the line with me today Simone Berry, who is co-founder and CEO of POC Lab. Simone, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to jump in.
And we have a lot to dig into, especially around this incredible project you're doing right now. But first, let's give people the lay of the land. Why don't you share a little bit about POC Lab, the work you do, and perhaps most importantly, how you approach creative projects with your clients?
So POC Lab is a Web3 first creative and innovation studio. We really break down the boundaries between brands and consumers through meaningful, and I think that's really important when we talk about how we approach brands, through meaningful digital experiences. Our mission has always been to advance the visible representation and the accessibility of technology to Black and Brown communities, LGBTQAI+, disabled, ensuring that these emerging tech really does reflect them also. For us, we want brands to have fans, not just followers. We're now in an attention economy. And what we're seeing is virtual experiences are really holding the attention much longer of a Gen Z consumer. And additionally, I think everyone always likes to think that gaming is only for the young. What we've really been tracking is that you're looking from anywhere between the ages of 7 to 42. So there's such a wide range. And what we want to do is take care of the whole experience. So we manage the ideation, the creativity, the game development, the marketing, the community branding. We take your strategies and really build something that has an emotional touch point, but also a strategic touch point on what your brand's digital identity really needs to feel like.
Wow, I love that. I love that mainly because, we're seeing so many projects out there, campaigns, and then when you really peel back the layers, it's like, okay, well, what's the strategy? What's the intention here? So I think the fact that you really guide brands and businesses through that end-to-end process to ensure that there is meaning and intention behind it is so incredibly meaningful and important. And I think that ties really nicely to the project we're talking about today, which is Cultureverse, and it's developed in collaboration with Walmart in celebration of hip hop's 50th anniversary. We're going to get into the nuances of the experience and just the celebration that they're really trying to bring to life here. But I'm curious, how did this entire partnership with Walmart come about? And really, how did that meeting of the minds happen? Like you were talking about the strategies, so the mission, the vision for the experience. What was that foundational work like?
So we were already developing POC Lab. Our whole mission was to celebrate Black creators, their creativity, ensuring that it was really going to be a creative focused experience. And we met with a few other companies. And when we met with Walmart, to be very honest, it was the alignment of mission and vision. Their focus on supercharging Black creators and ensuring that the potential is really reached through their Black and Unlimited platform really resonated with us. What they're doing with Make Us Studio, how they show up IRL. I was really impressed with the level of dedication. I love the fact that diversity and inclusion was not a part of the conversation, which is something that we constantly talk about. It was really about supercharging the potential of Black individuals. And that is really where we align, because that was our vision for the Cultureverse. And being able now to bring in creators that they've previously worked with, creators that are within hip hop, and really putting it all together in a way that we're celebrating the past, but also envisioning what the future would be. And for us, we really try to find that alignment, that mission alignment, ensuring that what we believe or what the brand is really trying to speak to, not the products. And I think this is where a lot gets lost. Sometimes everybody wants to talk about the product, and this wasn't about that. This was about the brand and what the brand values were, and creating an experience around brand values. And that to me is where we really found that spot, that because for our brand alone, for POC Lab and for Walmart.
Yeah, I love that. And I really appreciate that idea of exploring the intersection of the early visionaries, the roots of the culture, but also the evolution, the future, the new creators that you were talking about. So there's a lot there to work with, a lot of source material, so to speak, right? Like a lot of history you need to put out there. But then you describe Cultureverse as this pioneering interactive virtual odyssey, right? And as we talk about the potential for Web3 and these virtual experiences, it is very much tied to interactivity, to gaming. There are very complex goals here, and there is a lot tied to making these experiences engaging. So I mean, like, how do you navigate all of that from an experience standpoint, and determine really how to shape out what Cultureverse looks like and feels like for the user, the person who's in the experience?
So I think first, even with our partnership, test and learn is really something that Walmart focuses on when they're doing their virtual experiences. It's also what we do. We firmly believe that our platform is able to create, and our company is able to create these experiences that are expanded, and you can learn from what you've done. And it's important for us to test newness and not always just create the same kind of, here's the box, repeat, rinse and repeat the same ideas. So the fact that there was so much creative liberty, and they're allowing us to really just expand what it would be. So when you look at our experience, one, there's 9 different rooms, there's 7 different brands, there's 25 in total different creators, brands, artists. So it's a substantial amount of content. It's the immersive storytelling, the multidimensional content, the user engagement, the way that you are walking through the history from the beginning all the way to the end and looping. It's the community building. It is the inclusivity. It's the technological innovation. So we have a live stage that actually will have our first panel today within the experience, where it'll be a live avatar-based conversation with the 4 commissioned artists that we use for the Black and Unlimited Gallery. We have a social room inside Rock the Bells. There's actually you can purchase their book that they just published with Rizzoli. We have digital wearables. So even on the aspects of the layers and the layers, and that's not even getting into the game. So
Right.
what we really wanted to do is allow, and I think we kind of touched on it, we'll touch on it a little later, like this idea of edutaining. You are learning, but you're also playing. And the way the game was created was really to keep you moving through the experience, because it's huge. And when you look at a lot of the other games on Spatial, it's either a very heavy gaming mechanism, or it's more of a static space. We wanted to include both ideas, where if you didn't really want to play the game, it was okay. You could still, there's a ton for you just to explore. And then if you wanted to go through the gameplay, it would make it interesting and interactive enough that you would want to actually come back. And so far, our data and KPIs are really showing that the unique users are repeatedly coming back. And again, I think this is also the last part, and I'm really thrilled about it. We're continuing to evolve it. So even with the main stage panels, it wasn't something that we offered the first month that it was opened. We're now doing it for November because it'll be National Hip Hop History Month. We're looking at ways to add in more game mechanics. So we have like a new scavenger hunt that will move through social. These are the elements that keep people wanting to come back, and what I think the Metaverse Web3 user-generated content platforms allow more flexibility. So if there was something that's really working, like right now, we know the scavenger hunt is working, we can expand on that concept. And if there's something that's not, we can pivot and say, well, this is not, why isn't it? Let's change this way. And that flexibility is really important.
Yeah, that's a really strong point, Simone. And I feel like of all the conversations we've had around Web3 and specifically these types of virtual experiences, like we've heard about brands using data to validate other decisions. So like marketing, product development, right? Like they do the skin first. They see a lot of traction around the skin, and then it becomes a product in real life. But I think that idea of it being a scalable experience, and like you can continue to look at the data, iterate, improve, build upon it. So it's not so much like this thing in a vacuum, like for a campaign. It is a year round, or could be a year round evergreen initiative. I think that's very strong. But I do want to dig into that point around edutaining and how you went about designing this experience to optimize that value, that excitement, that engagement, without asking the people in the experience to do too much, because I feel like it's sometimes a fine line. Like if there are too many things to do, it's like overwhelming, but if there's not enough to do, you may be like detracting some people. So can you share a little bit about your thought process for all those little layers and nooks and crannies that are in the experience?
For the 9 rooms that we decided to build and 2 layers. Even when
I love it though. It's choose your own journey, truly, right?
So that's exactly where I was going to lead with. Whenever we develop games, it's very important to us to allow the audience to engage on their terms. I think a lot of times we decide that we're going to define the narrative, like you will do. We are no longer in that place. If you thought about like 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, brands used to bring a product to market and they would be like, you user, you consumer will consume this product in this way and you will use it this way and this. We've now seen that go away. Consumers, players, they're their own brands now. You've seen that with TikTok. They engage in it. The user-generated content becomes extremely important. You do not want to be creating experience where they cannot feel authentically and participate in the way that they want to. And I think that's when we look at like this casual gamified experiences. You want to simplify the technology, make it user-friendly in interaction, make it emotional neutral. So I'm not trying to say one thing or another, you're just experiencing it. And as everyone comes in, they're going to feel very differently, depending on what you really like. If it's fashion that you love, you're probably going to go into the style zone first. If it's music that you love, you're probably going to rock the bells. If it's art that you love, there's so much. If it's the commission artist and really understanding. I think my favorite thing is that when people come in and they hear, oh, Walmart sponsored it, they're like, really? And that's an incredible experience. Like, really? That's what we want. We want that feeling of exploration and curiosity. There needs to be a flow and an ebb going through it. So the way that we storytell, the narrative elements that we add in, how we create the content to make sure that it's relatable, it's personal, that there's some sort of connection. We talk about the 4 elements of hip hop within each quest. Most people don't know there's 4 elements of hip hop. They now do. In the beginning of our experience, we walked you through the early innovators. At no point does it say you have to stop. Does it say you have to move on? You make that decision. And I think when we're building, we do build very differently because we're consumer centric. We come from a consumer background and we're really thinking about the players and how they're moving through it. And then from a progression standpoint, how is the game progressing? Where are the wards? How are we building back that community building, giving a sense of belonging, a sense of achievement? And if you don't, like we mentioned, want to play actively, how can you just participate? And what we're seeing is communities just coming in and hanging out. They're playing, they're going into the live stage. I actually went into a room last week and there was just people in the main stage live hanging out and just talking. And that's what we're really looking to build. A lot of it is just ensuring that creators are being highlighted, especially for this experience, and that communities are being built.
Yeah, I love that. I think that community component, like the organic engagement, people actually just coming together and rallying around, what this space is all about. I think that's super powerful. And the fact that people are actually doing it is testament to the fact that the model works. And I guess it kind of leads me to this broader question around the trend of culture and commerce intersecting. Like, I feel like culture always kind of impacts, what we buy, how we buy. And I feel like now, especially, like maybe it's because of the power of digital platforms and digital communities, like this intersection is really strong now, and we're seeing a lot of brands really embrace it. But I would love for you to kind of expand upon the value of these virtual worlds, gaming, and how they enable this convergence to happen. Because I think it's interesting. Some brands are really embracing it and going all in, supporting these communities, and others are like I'm not really sure if this is a fit, and it may not be, and like that's okay. But I'm curious, like how you feel that convergence in particular is supported and enabled through these platforms.
So culture drives commerce at the end of the day. I mean,
Yeah.
we can circle the virtual world or gaming platforms is you have to enter it in a way that's authentic to your strategies and things that you're working on already in the IRL space. But the way that we are living now, we are in an attention economy. Brands need to be looking at virtual and gaming environments to capture attention. 20% of Gen Z spend more time. So 20% more time is spent in gaming environments than any other social vertical.
Wow.
So if you're looking at the time spent, if you even think about what you do, you're scrolling, you're scrolling, you're scrolling. And this is why we say we want fans, not followers, because what you want is someone engaged in your brand. These virtual environments, you create fully immersive experiences that communicate brand values, not products, and that resonates with the community. So instead of just scrolling, oh, I like that, scrolling, you are now engaged. You are in the experience, you're playing, you're seeing, you're touching, you're understanding. And from that, you're allowing them and encouraging their own self-expression, allowing users or players to authentically engage with what feels right to them. They can now share that content. It's so much more meaningful than a pop-up or an ad or something that's happening, because it is all about attention and where is their attention being focused on. And these environments are really allowing you to create enriched experiences that you would never be able to do in print, media, TV, even social.
100% agree. And I do want to ask, because obviously Walmart has a very expansive footprint and presence, not just in digital worlds, but in real life as well. So are there any components that like support this integration of IRL and IVL or in virtual worlds? Because I know they have the creator side, like, is that where the full circle moment happens, where like the lines between digital and physical come together?
So I think what was really interesting also is that we had Rock the Bells be a participant within our experience. So Walmart showed up in the IRL experience through Maker's Studio, through the concert. So there was a concert in August celebrating Hip Hop 50. They had a physical footprint. And then within our virtual footprint, we were selling the Streets Win book, which is the commemorative 50th anniversary book that Rock the Bells is selling. LL Cool J presented it through Rizzoli, and that was sold within our experience, sold from Walmart. So you were able to go into their experience, see the history, understand, and then click the book and buy it on Walmart. And I think that is a really interesting commerce model that no one has really been expanded on. And it's going to be an interesting use case for us. I think a lot of focus is always on the digital assets. Yeah. And in-game assets. It's never looking at, okay, well, what's like the medium place of that? Like, is there a way to play and then link you? So now you're collecting or going back and purchasing the thing from the store that's in here. I hate the word phygital.
Oh, phygital, yeah. A lot of people do. You're not alone.
Every time I say it, I'm like, squirm. But the phygital aspect of it, and what does that look like? And I think that was another element that I really appreciated with our partnership with Walmart, the curiosity to test and learn and to expand. And what if we did this? And what if it was like this? There was a lot of just freedom in the way that we thought about it. And I think that's why you're looking at an experience that's so rich in content, in narrative, in the storytelling. I think everyone that enters and probably, and maybe that's why everyone just keeps coming back, because every moment there's something brand new, and that's really exciting to us.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're not just getting data and insight from inside of this experience, which obviously we talked about, you're using, you're building, you're improving the experience, but you get data and insight from the outside too, because they are connecting those dots. So I guess to close out, Simone, I mean, what's next? How do you plan to take these learnings, apply them, not just, I guess, to Cultureverse, but beyond, because you're working with other partners as well.
So we're really impressed with the results that we've had from the Cultureverse. I'm going to read these ones. I like to get the numbers right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
So in a month, we had 42K visitors. So that was up to last week, which is a weekly average of 21,000 people. In the first 2 weeks that we launched, we outpaced BMW, Tommy Hilfiger, Jack Daniels, Givenchy. We've continued to outpace all brands that have launched on the platform. This is just from a user. I don't have the background, but when we look at like our numbers in comparison to week 1, week 2, week 3, so we've been able to really demonstrate an incredible growth rate and then retention rate, watching people come back and play. So when we look at data, we look at user sentiment. I think it's amazing. It's one of my favorite things when people are like, Walmart. And they're like, this is amazing, because that's also part of it. We want to demystify the metaverse. I think Walmart wants to have people understand their commitment. It's something that they've been committed to the Black community for a very long time. They have a lot of different platforms. Why shouldn't it show up in the virtual world? And expand and what they do with using their scale and allowing creators to have, like, as you said, I love the word, supercharging that opportunity. That's so important. And then when we look at how do we continue to drive the casual gaming world, what does retail look like that? How are we centering creators over just brands and products? To me, it's about creators with the brand, that brand value, how you connect in that way. And when you're looking at like a TikTok or a social media, that's really what you're seeing. It's the evolution of what influencers will be in a virtual world. And it's not so much the specific influence, I would say, but it's more about how you're communicating bad values for players to really go, oh, I like this. And this is not about a product. This is not, I'm trying to sell the skin or I'm trying to sell this. I'm trying to engage in some sort of emotional or creative touch point where my brand values are being expressed virtually. And I think what a lot of brands tend to do is we have this new product, we have this new thing, we're going to talk about it. And when I'm looking at the success of what we were building in comparison, and they were all incredible experiences, I'm just looking at why perhaps we did. And I think it's the fact that it wasn't about a product. It was about the culture. It was about creators. It was an experience that you're really feeling. If anything, I think people were shocked that there was a brand sponsor at times.
Right.
Really? And that to me is interesting because we left exploration and curiosity. And that is so important for everyone to be able to win.
Amazing. It's such a powerful point, I think, to close out because, brands and retailers will continue to test these platforms. They will continue to try and see what works, what doesn't, what resonates. And I think this is just such an incredible model for our industry to learn from. So Simone, thank you again so much for taking the time out, giving us the scoop, getting into the nitty-gritty details. It definitely paints an incredible picture. Thank you again.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time, and I'm happy to share the Cultureverse. It's one of my favorite experiences, for obvious reasons. It's the one that's working now.
Absolutely. The numbers speak for themselves, right? And I hope to all of you watching this right now, you get some learnings, insights that as you test or venture into these new platforms, you have some advice to guide your way. And when you're not building your own plan, be sure to check out the Cultureverse, experience it for yourself. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.